Culture, like food, is made by people far away. It comes pre-packaged in a box. For many of us, art is separate from our place and made by people we don't know or share with. Similarly, the food we eat is separate from us and from our place and made for commercial purposes. I work with Runaway Moon Art Society near the small town of Enderby in the interior of British Columbia. It seems that even here in this rural area people are disconnected from the land. So we decided to spend 2 years celebrating locally grown fruit and vegetables in order to become closer to the source of our food. Through winter, spring, summer and fall, we worked together making art and sharing food, seeking to unearth our connection to the food we can produce and the culture we can create right here.
Sure as the earth, the farmers say, sure as the rain.
We started by asking Pat Beaton, a community-engaged artist, to give a workshop about making art collaboratively. We sat around a table and talked about food while we carved lino blocks and printed them on cotton. The squares were sewn together into a patchwork tablecloth that was used to serve food on for all of the next events. We were invited to a conference of farmers who were gathering to discuss the economic challenges of growing food in a society in which very few people farm. It was winter, dream time for farmers, so they talked about seeds and crops while they made potato prints and decorated cotton serviettes to accompany the tablecloth. These last a lot longer than the paper ones. Some local artists designed collaborative art pieces about their favorite vegetable. Deb Humphreys, a fabric artist, chose squash in March when it's still good to eat. Every student in Ashton Creek School painted a squash with fabric paint. Then we held a community drop-in where people helped arrange them and put the whole thing together. This farmer dropped in too. We sat around a table and ate food made from squash. In May, we assembled these colander chandeliers at 3 local gatherings. Each strand was beaded by a different person to honor spring greens. In August, we made an onion lantern, which brought to light the many layers of thought that went into growing it. Students at MVBD School and the Cliffview Girl Guides made these giant corn kernels. I'll tell you more about the corn later on in this video. Here's Marie Thomas teaching us to do traditional beadwork. We made apples and leaves. Here they're being assembled into an apple tree. Marie and I have worked together on other projects. Sometimes I ask her if it makes sense to keep working with community-engaged art. She tells me that if I didn't do it anymore, then who would? It's the same as farming. If the farmers don't keep on growing the food, then who will? Wondering if our children know that our food comes from the dirt, we made these potato shakers at Shahaya and Grindrod schools, and at a drop-in. Potatoes come out of the earth just like clay. Amy baked these in her oven just like we bake potatoes. Listen carefully. They each have a different sound. Deb and I invited people to design their favorite vegetable in reverse applique. There's so many to choose from, something for everyone to like. This is called a patty pan, did you know? Is this a beet or a radish? Hey, nobody chose tomatillo. Apples, well, yes, fruit as well as vegetables. Green beans, purple beans, yellow. Lots of different squashes. That's huckleberry. It's the only wild food that was made. Carrots are really popular, you can see. There are so many vegetables and fruit. If there were enough farmers and if local farming were supported here in Enderby and in many places in Canada, there'd be enough food available right here for us to eat all year round. I've come to understand that in the past, and in many places still, cultural practice is all about people's connection to their place and their food source. Traditional knowledge of food gathering and production is thousands of years old. My friend Renee Hugo Sanchez is from a village in the Andes where everyone is a farmer and everyone is a musician. People connect with where they are, the source of their food, with music and with dance. How can we be part of a culture here and now that celebrates the food that we eat in the place where it's grown? To reflect our local cycles of planting, growing, harvesting, and dreaming, we planned 4 community spectacles in a year, one for each season. We practiced out in the field and ate good food. We planted corn, which had grown tall enough by harvest time to become a space for the fall event. The farmers were there, and the sun warmed us, and the water blessed us. And we wove the appliqué vegetables together. When people arrived, they were each given one of the giant corn kernels and asked to write a kernel of truth and to put it in the kernel. They brought it with them to our corn circle. The kernels of truth were placed on the giant corn and carried away from the field. In the winter, we celebrated potatoes and apples out in the cold. During food breaks, we talked about the weather. As ever, water was there as ice and snow. The sun wasn't there at all. It's dark in midwinter. The farmers were there, falling asleep in their seed catalogues, dreaming of spring. In the spring, we planted corn again. We marked the rows out with colored ribbons that appeared as if by magic, just as leaves appear from the twigs and as plants appear in the barren ground. It was so beautiful. You really can't tell from this video. But really, I wish you'd been there to experience the magical effect. Our magical effect was just an expression of what actually happens in nature all around us at every moment. The water was there as melting snow, and the sun was back. The farmers chased the animals from the fields. We invited my friend Renee to help us celebrate the planting. He explains to me how dancing and planting are not separate. They're the same thing. People were given a kernel, and from the kernel they planted the truth along with the corn seeds. What's the difference between a seed in the ground and a seed of the truth? They become the same thing, in the way that Renee tells me how planting and dancing are the same. Curly Willow Farm, where all these vegetables grow, is a fertile place. We know this because there are lots of frogs. Or maybe the frogs are there because of the healthy population of mosquitoes. We had a lot on our plate, organizing all the art projects and then 4 community spectacles in 1 year. A lot on your plate was the culmination of all we had made and all that has grown. It was a lot of work, but we got a lot out of it. Murray and the band got to choose their favorite vegetable to wear. Vegetables guided the audience. The sun and the water presided.
What a crowd.
Vegetables were everywhere, wanting to tell their stories.
By the United Nations,
farmers were working away. The truths we'd planted in spring had grown into a sculpture garden. There was a puppet show behind the raspberry bushes. It was a short documentary about the travels of the ingredients of a chip bag. The video doesn't do it justice. The onion and the tomato were the main characters. They traveled in opposite directions by truck, by train, and by plane to the place where they were processed and then brought together again. Doesn't make any sense at all. We sang a song in rounds, made of all the truths woven together that people had shared at harvest. And at the end, we wove the ribbons together one more time, and ate food from Curly Willow Farm. Food that had been sun and rain and earth only a few weeks before. How can we describe all the kinds of contributions people made to this project? Farmers are not creators. They plant seeds, collaborating with the earth, the rain, and the sun. Every seed is different, each with the full potential to grow into a plant that bears leaves, fruit, and more seeds. With our community art projects, we toss out ideas the way a farmer scatters seeds. You never know what will become of each one, how it will grow in the life of each person. I live on Curly Willow Farm. Doug Saba grows all of these vegetables here. He's known to many as the hardest working man. Our kids help a lot. They helped a lot with this video too. I had to bribe them though with screen time and with chips. Here, this is what they call product placement. Our food project keeps growing organically. We're developing a cultural partnership with people in a village called Akonjo in Kenya. This young man's decorating a square, and at the seed swap in Enderby, people decorated squares, and they're being sewn together to make a quilt. Who knows what will grow out of this? I used to think that through the arts we can help to create a better world. But the earth is complete. It contains all it needs for infinite continuity. Culture links people with their place on earth. Art is our expression of that infinite continuity.
Round,